Hey YouTube, welcome back to another unboxing. As usual, a lot of exciting stuff. Something special from Tiffany and a super grand complicated watch, so stay tuned. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna unbox a Rolex. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, classic Hulk. I mean, to me, it's gonna be one of, if not the most collectible steel modern submariners. I mean, we'll see what they produce, over the next 10 years or so in the ceramic bezels. But I think the 40 mil case size, which is the super case, maxi dial, the green on this is distinctly Rolex. And in my opinion, it's just faultless.
So, Starbucks, Hulk, or Kermit?
Hulk. 100%, all day, every day.
I agree.
Although the Kermit is, the anniversary watch. The first one, actually, the first Rolex to feature a colored bezel. Interesting fact for those who didn't know.
Rumors came out of the Hulk being discontinued, and people were buying them up on the market, and they were trading at like 8,500. And there was a guy at a show paying like 9,000, 9,500. He bought like 18 of them in one shot, and I'm just like, this guy's nuts, paying $9,500 for a Hulk. I don't know what this is. Oh, it's a tag. Tag Heuer was a lot better off when it was just Heuer versus when it became Tag Heuer and when they got bought out.
I mean, Heuer is like one of, if not the most, or one of the most prestigious chronograph manufacturers back 50 years ago when they were acquired by Tag, roughly. I mean, not to say that their pieces aren't good today, but I think definitely the old Heuer chronographs are the best. I will say this, Tag Heuer is back on the right track because they are kind of remaking those vintage-inspired Heuer chronographs of old in modern case sizes.
Well, this particular watch, this was a watch that was done for F1 Redbull Racing. Max is a beast and he keeps beating the shit out of my Mercedes. Another Rolex. I'm gonna go with another Oysterflex. I talked to Adrian about the market. The market is pretty steady on these. It's still a watch that trades significantly over retail. I think this trades more over retail in terms of percentage across all gold models at this point.
It's the second most popular.
Obviously, the John Mayer is still holding pretty steady.
Yeah, to me, it's probably my favorite rose gold Oysterflex Daytona. I prefer it even over the Sundust dial, the Sundust diamond dials. I like the combination of chocolate and rose gold, and then you also get the practicality of a ceramic bezel. I think you can't go wrong. That was the one that we just had another one?
Deja vu. Okay, another Oysterflex rose gold chocolate Daytona. Wow. 41 millimeter Datejust on a Jubilee. This is your other entry level Rolex as far as I'm concerned. And then it's a big, for me, it's always, when they came out with the 41 millimeter Datejust 2 is the dub. The two things that came in mind before the crazy hype is that big look for the money. It's got a look to it, especially if you're talking about the ones with the fluted bezels. And a lot of times people would look at it like, oh, is that a day date, right? Like from afar. It's just a big look for the money as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and this configuration in particular has become very popular because it's the one that Joe Biden has. Although he doesn't have the Roman dial, he has the stick dial.
There you go, you can talk about this one.
50th anniversary Royal Oak in gold, black dial. Not sure how they feel on the fence about the 50th anniversary Royal Oaks because ultimately, they got that rotor. Is it a bit of a gimmick? Is it not? I think personally, these are gonna be super collectible in the future. Again, you factor in how many Royal Oaks they make in a year, how many are gonna have that 50th anniversary rotor in that
and we had this conversation before, and one of the things I'm gonna talk about right now is timing on the market. It's all dependent and out of our control for sure, and the consumer's control on the company themselves, right? It's how much they put out in what amount of time. What AP did with 50th anniversary is they put a lot of them out on the market, and everybody that was in line and waiting ran to buy them. Unfortunately, most of those people ran to buy them in order to resell them. So they showed up on the secondary market at some outlandish prices until more and more came out and the prices started dropping. Then the dip happened and they dropped even more. And all of a sudden, you get a collector out there or an end consumer that says, oh, I'm kind of turned off by them. They dropped so much. But did they really drop? Right? Because the first ones that came into gray market hands were due to the flippers. The guys that went to AP, got the watch, flipped it over, and then some gray market dealer decided, I'm going to put up the stainless steel chrono for $450,000 on chrono, right? And then all of a sudden, people are seeing this dip. And that's what I keep telling people. Don't trust that data. People go on chrono and say, my watch is worth $20,000. Why are you offering me $8? Because that's what it's worth.
Yeah.
Just because somebody put it up on chrono for that, it doesn't mean anything. So I love the new boxes, but these older boxes, like the wooden boxes on the inside and all this stuff, I love this.
So much character too. You develop a nice patina on the wood.
Exactly.
Stuff.
It's old GMT, which
16, 7,
I
10.
mean, it's neo-vintage, I would call it at this point.
Yeah, I would say probably neo-vintage for sure. To me, I think probably the best value Rolex on the market today. I mean, you can get these around the $12,000 mark, you know what I mean? So you're getting a GMT in probably I think the most easy to read GMT format and super iconic look from Rolex itself. Jubilee bracelet. This one, stretch-wise, is fantastic for its age. We're talking, still in the 80s, right?
I found myself often drawn to the flimsiness of the older watches.
Right.
And I find myself attracted to that because it's just, I don't know, it's something about the physical feel.
It's super lightweight too. Like it just wears so comfortably. And honestly, you can't describe it until you actually get to wear it on wrist and have like a significant amount of time.
Take a new Rolex, take an old Rolex, and really it's just a feel. If you guys have those watches at home, and you'll know what I'm talking about in terms of flimsiness. And there's something about the lightness and the flimsiness of these attracts me to them.
These watches specifically are even, I think, more practical than modern ones because you can take out the bracelet, put it on a strap. It completely changes the look of the watch, right? Yeah, 15400 OR.
It's a good thing that we have that come in today, and I'll tell you why. It's a 15400 OR.
Yeah.
So here's what I was talking about. Give me that, and give me that. I mean, this one is all stickered up and it's got the plastic case on it, but in reality, here I hold two Royal Oaks. I think now, guys, you can really understand why I said what I said. Give me something special on the anniversary, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm wearing this, what am I doing? Like, what am I getting that's different? What am I getting that's besides the rotor in the back that says 50th anniversary? That's my only pet peeve with the new anniversaries, and hopefully AP will listen. I'm glad this came in alongside, oh, what a coincidence. I'm glad this came in alongside the other one because it just really goes to show side by side of exactly the point I was trying to get across.
And I think 15400 also represents probably one of the best value Royal Oaks on the market today, especially because people just go for the latest, the 15500, and understandably so. You get a new movement, different kind of case and bracelet.
IWC. This is the Portofino on a mesh bracelet. And this is actually a little more modernized because it does have a deploying buckle. All right, on to some special things, starting with another purple monster. So out of all the frosteds, right, I was not a fan in the beginning. I was like, what in the hell is this? Like, I love the frosteds, right? But when they came out with the purple, I'm like, ugh. And then it wasn't me that changed my mind, it was the market that changed my mind because that was the most popular, the most thought after. It's also the rarest one of them all. Yeah. Now let's go to seemingly another 5164R. I'm gonna start with the fact that this one is a little bit more special because this is a Tiffany & Co. 5164R. And don't ask me how many I made with a Tiffany stamp.
Adds a little intrigue, a little character to the watch, makes it 10 times rarer.
About 50 times. Again, anybody tells you they know that, oh, they only made so many of these, they're lying to you because nobody knows that. But we do know that probably for every 1,000 Pateks, one may be Tiffany, right? How do you identify a rare watch where you don't know how many are produced, but you kind of know the overall numbers of the company? And how do you go for something that's not a limited edition? And this is one of those examples. Last but not least, we have a brand that I'm going to let Marco pronounce.
Ultra complicated watch by a brand called Maître du Temps. They pull together basically the minds of a bunch of watchmakers, kind of like MBNF, like they do, and then ultimately create, one-of-a-kind pieces. This is the Chapter 1 Grand Complication, which has, first of all, it's a monopusher chronograph, a tourbillon, perpetual calendar, retrograde date, retrograde GMT, a number of other complications. I mean, I was just looking at it kind of in awe. This is done by two independent watchmakers, Christophe Claret and Peter Speak-Marine. I mean, just a masterpiece. It's incredible. Probably pushing 600 components if I had to guess.
So I'm going to go back to what you said, and you said in the likes of MBNF, and I'm going to rebuttal that a little bit because that he tried to do what Max did, right? Yeah. But he didn't really put it out there that way. Where Max created Max Bussier and Friends, he literally took all those independent watchmakers that he worked with prior, and he invited them to collab, and he called them out, and that was the thing. Like, this horological machine is this guy. Where here, this is just a question of hiring those guys to be able to create the type of movement that's in this watch, because there's only a few watchmakers out there that are actually even able to do this, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of watchmakers out there that can even make a tourbillon. Let's just start there, right? Yeah. We never look at the fact that there's not a whole lot of companies out there that make their own tourbillons or make their own minute repeaters. They will reach out to watchmakers such as these guys that are going to be a big help at a price. Then they say, okay, well, what are you charging me for this? What are you charging me for that? They put together a price, they come up with a retail, and they come up with a watch. I mean, the way this watch is designed is pretty amazing. I guess I would call them tubular, or I don't even know how to call this, scroll type of display. This is the day. I think this is the moon phase. Yeah. They came up with a really cool system of an easy changing system, like where it will change the functionality on the watches that change fairly easily. a safety mechanism on the pushers. They won't just push themselves, which is usually a problem with these complicated watches.
Yeah.
You keep pushing stuff and you mess it all up. But in reality, they came up with a very avant-garde design. In reality, they used a couple of great watchmakers to do so,
yeah.
and they came up with something different and humongous and super expensive. I think these things retail so around $600 some thousand.
Which is not a surprise, right? Considering all the complications they fit into one wristwatch, right? So a watch like this, again, it comes down to how many watchmakers can execute this, and then on top of it, the difficulty of the task itself, right? So making a watch like this, making everything function together, working properly.
And I'm also going to go back to the timing in the market, right, which somehow became the general theme of this unboxing. Then there's also such a thing as general timing in the market for watch manufacturers. I won't use Mathieu de Temp, which I know I mangle the name, which was Masters of Time.
Yeah, Masters of Time. That's what it
translates.
translates.
Now, if you look at DeWitt as a brand, first of all, the gimmick of DeWitt was wonderful. But I looked at the lineup of the watches that we talked about, constant escape and accuracy of watches. DeWitt executed a Fusée tourbillon.
Yeah.
Right? DeWitt has executed their Geo watch, I forget the exact name of it. They did the mathematical watch. It was called, that's what it's called. It was called mathematical, but in French. So a lot of complicated things that he did. But the timing in the market for him then was the world was on fire pre-2008. Specifically, certain parts of the world, Russia, Ukraine, former Soviet republics. So what he did is he produced these watches with high retail price tags. Unfortunately, he sold them off to distributors. So distributors will usually get 75 off, they'll distribute to stores at 50 to 45 off, and then stores will sell on. Where that part somewhere got cut out, because if I had a checkbook and I could walk in there and say, look, here's an order for $10 million, he would sell it to me, right? I wouldn't have to be a distributor or an AD, I could just buy the watches.
Right.
Because back then there was a lot of gifts that were given, all right, along Russia and all those other places. These were all gifts. So the idea, it had to have a high retail price tag and a discount. Unfortunately, he wasn't in business long enough, because when the 2008 crisis hit, the brand is still recovering. The brand is still there, the brand is still kicking ass, but there's so many closeout leftovers out there, and the brand is not selling as well, because now it has that high discount label. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's unboxing. YouTube, like, comment, share, subscribe, Instagram Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one.